Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. It looks like a great group. I saw a lot of names on the attendee list that I knew and a lot that I don't, which is exciting for us. So as we go through this, we'll cover a bit of everything, some that you guys will know, some that you won't. Joining me today is Wayne King. As we call him the Claims King, I'd ask you not to call him that because his head's big enough. But I'm going to ask Wayne to give us a little bit about himself before we talk about the program, and then we'll get to the meat of it, which is his content and the claim trends that we are seeing in the marketplace. So Wayne, if you could give us a little bit about your background.
Certainly. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wayne King. I've been with KBK now almost a year. I've been in the claims industry for 23 years now. So I started when I was about 12. It wasn't my choice coming out of college, but I needed a job. And so I landed in claims and actually found that I was very good at it, especially the investigation part. I spent most of my career at Travelers Insurance. I was there for about 16 years, and I specialized in commercial auto, public sector, Indian nations, and commercial insurance in general before doing a 5-year stint up in Hartford at corporate, helping to develop national workflows and then also working with international claims.
Very good. Thanks for that, Wayne. And Wayne's been tremendous to helping us reshape our claims response and be a resource for some of you guys. I know that a lot of people on this call are already using him, which is fantastic. Just a few housekeeping items before we jump into it. The first 25 agents who registered and joined today's webinar will receive a $25 Amazon gift card by email. Liz on our marketing team is going to be sending that out, okay? So that'll happen here shortly when we're done. The webinar is also being recorded, and it will be available in a few days once we're done getting that wrapped up and together for you guys. So if you miss something or your question doesn't get answered, we will get to those. We are tracking who is sending in questions, and to that point, there are no bad questions, right? There's only the questions that we don't answer. We'd much rather you guys ask, and so the ones we don't get to on here and don't have time for, we'll get to and send to you guys individually. And that'll happen through the QA at the end, right? There's going to be that QA box on the right. And so we really want to see those. All right, guys, there are no bad questions. So in terms of agenda today and what we're going to talk through, we're going to talk about NSM real quick. Like I said, there's a lot of people on the call who I don't know, which I'm thrilled about. And we could possibly do business with you guys. What NSM does, how can we partner with you guys on other things? Of course, the KBK overview. That's important for even you folks on the call that do business with us today, because I can't tell you how many times I get, oh, you do something besides tow trucks? Yes, we are much wider than tow trucks and can provide those solutions. Then we're going to get to the meat of it, the exciting stuff, and that's how claims are shaping the marketplace and how Wayne and his team are responding to them. And then we'll get to as many Q&A questions that we can at the end, and then we'll wrap up with why KBK, and of course, it'll be available later. So, in terms of the NSM introduction and why NSM is important, is NSM acquired KBK back in 2018. NSM is a program manager out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that, as you will see on this slide, is much larger and wider than KBK. And that's important because we can deepen our relationships with you, the agents, to write other things with you guys, provide solutions, niche solutions. And then they also provide us with the backing and support to provide customer service, to be a good partner, to bring in carriers on new products and do other things. You know, when you think about NSM, they do a lot of different things, and they've been doing it for about 32 years. So you'll see a couple specialty programs on here. We work with only A-rated and better carriers, and we do it through a lot of different things. You're going to see HAPRO on here. That's habitational property. You're going to see PUA, which is professional lines. You're going to see Big Sister care providers. I got ahead of myself, which does Big Sisters, Big Brothers agencies, hospice, community action agencies. There's staffing lines, a lot of work comp, over 300 classes of work comp. And so we bring this up on this claims call to let you know that we can be a solution for you guys on more than just tow. And we can provide that warm handoff to a program manager to set that up so that you guys can do more business together. And you can obviously learn more about these companies all on the NSM website. All right, let's also talk about KBK and why you're here. So, KBK has been through a lot over the 32 years, and it started as a family agency focusing on tow trucks. It expanded into auto service and repair, and then used cars. And it was acquired by NSM, and that really gave us the support and really jolt an arm, if you will, to make this company grow and be able to allow us to write the premiums we do in over 47 states and provide niche solutions for agencies like you guys, all right? And so when you think of us and you think of tow trucks, I will hope that after this, you think of more than that. You think of tow trucks, used car, auto service repair. You think of NSM and all the wonderful programs that they do that we can plug you into. And then the last thing that KBK is we want to be a solution, a tough market solution that's hardening. And we do that through our partner in Guard, who is a great partner. All right, let's talk about how we do that. In terms of the KBK team, a lot of these folks you guys know. There's Aaron Miller, who I roll up to, who has responsibility through Philadelphia through a number of those programs that we talked about earlier. There's Wayne that you're going to hear from, who is focused solely on our claims and how to be a solution for you guys. But it's that bottom line that, no offense to Wayne, really makes our company go. And that's our unmatched expertise and underwriting experience. Daryl Vadell and Brett Kirsch have been here 21 and 20 years respectively. And the average tenure for their teams in terms of underwriting experience is 14 years. And then you've got Amber Wallace, who manages our underwriting assistance and really our operations, who's been here only 8, right? And so when you think of the expertise that goes into through our New Orleans and our Dallas offices, we're really lucky to have such a great and seasoned team to provide solutions for you guys, all right? So KBK, our mission is to provide go-to-market solutions for you guys. You're always going to see us and through NSM playing in niche businesses, right? So let's talk about how we do that. That niche focus, it comes from wanting to be a specialist for you guys. And that's important because we're an MGU. People use these terms interchangeably, right? We're an MGU, MGA. That means we have the pen. That means you come to us, you send us a submission, we are going to make the call and give you guys the pricing. We're not going to somewhere else. We're not a wholesaler. And so that cuts out another link in the chain, right? You're dealing with the decision makers. We talked about the experience, right? Over 100 plus years of combined underwriting experience. It's unmatched in the industry. We're so lucky to have it. And also in-house claims service through Wayne and his team. You guys know, a lot of on the call, that you can get him involved and we're going to get you to a resolution with our TPA partners and with Guard. We talked briefly about the backing by NSM, which is important when it comes to systems and solutions. And then let's talk briefly on scale, right? Just to give you guys, the new folks on the call, we insure over 7,700 tow operators today. That's operators. That equates to about 24,000 power units, and that's available in 47 states, all right? And of course, we're backed by our strong carrier partner in Guard. Guard's A+ rated. We've been without interruption in terms of capacity since 1990, which is fantastic, right? We've always been able to provide solutions to you guys, our agent partners. We've got the coverage and the forms you need, and we've been able to navigate a number of tough markets. And we think one of those is happening now in terms of it hardening. I know you guys see it out there in terms of pricing. And then, of course, comprehensive solutions, right? We do that through our programs. We've got access to a workers' comp program specifically for tow, in addition to those 300 classes that we talked about earlier. And then, of course, Wayne's in-house claim support. You tie that all together, and that's the KBK difference that we hope to continue to provide for you guys every day through the product. So let's go through this quickly before we get to claims, and that's our appetite, right? Everybody knows us for tow trucks. We love the tow trucks towing for repair. But a lot of people don't know that we also write used car dealers. No franchise, just the used car dealers that are buying used personal passenger vehicles, trucks, and vans and selling them. Used heavy truck dealers. So I know everyone's going to say, oh, well, can you use heavy truck repair? It's used heavy truck dealers doing the majority of dealing. They can also do the repair with it. In terms of garage, when you think of us, we can do repair, auto service and repair in body shops. Where we're very successful is that those that have a heavy auto component. So think other tow trucks or service. You know, if it doesn't have that, everybody knows you can just put it into a Bob. That wouldn't be where we would play. And then auto-centric salvage, recycling, and dismantling. It's a niche within a niche, but we love it and are very successful in that niche where others are getting out. All right. So in terms of what else we want to cover today, we're going to touch briefly on our partner Guard here. Guard's been on the program 6 years. They're a fantastic partner. A+ rated. They love the tow truck business. They have a robust appetite for it. They want to grow with us, and they're a partner, interestingly enough, across NSM programs. So there's that deep partnership there with other programs, including care provider services, the social services program that we talked about. But Guard is pleased with the program, and that's not come without some pain to you guys. And I think it's important to mention that. We're going into our 5th year of double-digit increases that you guys have felt. But that's the reason we've been able to do it for 32 years, been without coverage, and we've seen other carriers burn in and out. Guard agrees with us in terms of the medicine that's needed for the marketplace. And we work with you guys to try to hit buy numbers. And sometimes that's painful in terms of what's out there, but we appreciate the relationship you guys have with your insureds to deliver those, and hopefully we can win more often than not. All right. So real quick, in terms of the do's and don'ts of KBK, right? I never miss an opportunity to help us be more efficient and provide solutions for you guys, right? So some of these are going to be pretty self-explanatory, but you'd be shocked, or you wouldn't be shocked by how often we see it. We need complete solutions, complete submissions to provide quotes for you guys, right? That means the app, the lost runs, the drivers and vehicles list, right? A plug for Wayne here is, counsel insureds on what to put on their social media and websites. We had a possible insured who got to tow Air Force One across a tarmac once, and he put that picture on his website, and that's not something we can write. That's beyond heavy haul, with incidental heavy haul. So, just be cognizant of those things, right? Also report claims early and often. That helps Wayne and his team get in front of things. They don't get away from us. Claimants don't get upset. And then, of course, filing request forms for all new and renewal. It's going to have filings. Let us know and let us get in front of that. Conversely, the don'ts, don't send an incomplete submission. We're not going to be able to quote it. We have requirements for our partner in Guard to do that. Same thing for bind. We're always going to need those MVRs. If you're going to need property, send us the forms. We appreciate it, right? That's a complete submission and allows us to get it out. And then in terms of adding vehicles, we're going to need the VIN to add it, also to take it off. So soapbox session done there. I appreciate your time on that, but it's important for us to do quick turns for you guys. So, real quick on the Premier Garage program, we talked about everybody knows us for tow, right? We want to talk real quick on used cars. It is a solution for you guys that you can bring to your insureds beyond the tow trucks, because we know so many of these operations, they're not just doing tow, they're doing auto service and repair, and they're doing used cars. So it's highly competitive. It's for non-franchise used dealers. And we can cover weather in most cases. We can also cover repair shops and body shops with it. When you send that into KBK, what we're going to do is, do more tow? It's for an operation that does them all. Do they do more tow? Do they do more used cars or auto service repair? And then we're going to figure that out with you, and we're going to put it into the program that works. We're not going to walk away from it. We're going to figure out a way to help you guys write it in most cases. And obviously that's available in all states but Alaska, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York. We're working on New York and New Jersey. I hope to get some things sorted out there with Guard, get them to a comfort level, and so that we can provide a solution for you guys there. All right. So that wraps up it's a little more on used cars. Sorry, I was thinking about claims already. So why this is important, right? There's a lot of turbulence in the marketplace of other carriers exiting. I know all of you guys can give me a couple names, and we're ready to be that solution for you guys. So we want to see it, right? We want to see the used cars. We can do the DOL up to $1.5 million, the $3 million on true property. And we can, as I mentioned, we can write those risks that have towing. And if it's got the salvage yard with it, we can write that coverage as well, whereas many carriers exclude the salvage because of the products. We don't want to see the pick and pull, right? It needs to be observed and handled internally there. But KBK is in a strong position to help you guys grow there through these different verticals. All right. Okay, so I appreciate everyone's time on that. Hopefully a couple of people learned some things, and now to the interesting and fun stuff. And this is the claim trends from Wayne.
Thank you, Brian. It certainly makes me happy that you get so excited about claims, because I know not everybody does. So we'll welcome everybody. So we're going to go through, I'm going to start out with some claims oversight, why it's important. So let's talk about, commercial auto business are probably the biggest targets of the plaintiff bar. So, it doesn't matter what city you're in. If you watch TV for a little bit, you're going to see commercials from plaintiff attorneys about, were you in an accident with a commercial vehicle? We have large limits, so that makes us big targets. Information sharing with you all and then our insureds is critical here. And that's partly of why I'm here, is to really be looking at trends real time and being able to then not only share that with our underwriting teams, but also the agents on what we're seeing in specific areas with certain coverages, so that everybody's able to be aware of trends, and then we are able to better protect the insured's interests. Best-in-class claim service. So when an insured has a loss, we write a policy, but more importantly, we're writing a promise to be there when they have that loss and handle that claim fairly and timely. So that's a big thing for me, because that's our moment of truth. And so being able to take care of an insured's loss timely and appropriately is very critical. The insurance industry. So in the last 7 years, the insurance industry has been evolving quickly around the utilization of various tech out there. So consider appraisal applications, predictive modeling, predictive analytics that are really helping the insurance industry respond more efficiently and effectively to claims, but also start predictive modeling claims that may be ripe for attorney representation and taking steps to avoid that. So the insurance industry as a whole is really starting to leverage the tech that's out there in the handling of claims. Regular reporting with the TPA. So the TPA we're currently with, I have daily contact with them. I get monthly reports from them around reserving, loss trends, but also when you all have an issue with a claim, or perhaps there's not been contact with an insured or any kind of claims issue, I'm your point of contact. So instead of you trying to track down who the claims adjuster is and trying to get in touch with them, I ask that you just send me a note or give me a call and let me do that for you. That's part of the reason why I'm here, is to be that bridge and that advocate for you as our agents and brokers, as well as for the insured. Next slide, please. All right, market scans. So, more costly inflation-driven claims across all lines of business are what we're seeing today. An increase in severe weather patterns, cats are getting more severe, and then low and moderate interest rates are making, investments lower, and it's influencing a hardening market, which I'm sure you all are seeing as well. And next slide. So, when we look at commercial auto in particular, a trend of underwriting losses within the commercial auto liability space has been trending since 2011. There has not been any let up in that. Adverse development of prior accident year reserves and sharp rises in nuclear verdicts, which I'm going to talk about in a little more depth here soon, have really been contributing to this continuing trend. Insurers have increased rates each quarter for the last 38 consecutive quarters, which I'm sure you're all aware of as well. Combined ratio for current year was 101.4, which is an improvement over 2020, but I think we're still going to see above 100 in the combined ratio going into for the full year 22 as well.
Now, Wayne, just real quick, I want everybody, the slide's important, right? There's some exciting stuff on here that Wayne's been tapping into that we're seeing in the marketplace. I've seen a lot of different things. I've heard of chaos theory, but Wayne's going to talk about reptile theory here, which is really interesting because it's something we've seen play out in the marketplace. So don't miss this, all right?
Yeah, no, that's a big one that we're seeing in some of our trials here lately. So actually excited to talk about it. Sounds very threatening, but it's the plaintiff's bar. So let's start with labor shortage. So pre-pandemic, there was a lot of consistency in the staffing around insurance companies, but post-pandemic and through the pandemic, really, we saw a situation where employees were leaving insurance companies and then leaving the insurance industry as a whole, but also there was a lot of hopping from carrier to carrier. And so I was still at Travelers Insurance at the time, and we were seeing other carriers that were offering very large signing bonuses. So people were starting to jump from carrier to carrier to get a signing bonus. And this was creating some backlog in inventories and creating claims that were starting to drag out as carriers were trying to keep that staffing level up. Independent adjusters. So, we rely heavily on independent adjusters because of the heavy equipment nature of our tow vehicles. Independent adjusters have always been kind of a tough one because there's only so many of them out there. You add the labor shortage to it, and this has really impacted cycle times, and I'm sure you've heard about that from some of our insureds. When I joined KBK, the average cycle time for first inspection of an insured vehicle was 29 days. That's 29 days to first inspection. So, we've got insureds that are owner operators, and having a vehicle down for that amount of time is really impactful to their bottom line. So, really looking at ways that we can help shorten that time, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that here too. Body shop employees. So this just kind of perpetuates the cycle times being extended. So body shops were not immune. They were going through labor shortages as well, which was creating longer times to repair a vehicle. I personally had an accident at the end of the year last year. It was not a major accident. What should have been about a 5-day repair on my truck ended up taking 30 days just because of the time it was taking to get it through the repair process, which was a little long and annoying. But supply chain issues. So, this was huge during the pandemic. It has started to ratchet down, but we're still in the midst of supply chain issues, particularly parts availability. So people are holding onto their vehicles longer, which makes the availability of parts less. Microchips, that was the big one right towards the tail end of the pandemic. It's starting to mellow out, but we still see that. Rental vehicles. So when the pandemic hit, rental companies sold off a lot of their inventory to keep income coming in. And then once the restrictions were off and people were starting to go back out, rental vehicles are still very tough to come by, and the cost to rent vehicles has driven up as a result of it, which increases the cost of a claim when we're at fault for a loss and paying for a claimant vehicle, rental vehicle, while their vehicle's being repaired. Social inflation. So I think most of you have probably heard this term. This term has been around for probably 7 to 10 years with regards to the insurance industry. And what social inflation essentially means is the cost of claims rises exponentially above traditional economic inflation. So we see that regularly as far as the cost of claims. But when you look at the fact that we are also in an economic inflationary period, this really ends up costing claims more due to rising medical costs. We talked about supply chain availability, rental vehicles. So what we see is the cost of claims going up considerably as a result. The reptile theory. So this one is relatively new, and it really kind of originated at the beginning of the pandemic. And this is an approach by the plaintiff's bar to really paint our defendants, such as our insureds, as really threats to a community. And so what they do is bottom line is they try to get a jury to assign punitive damages without making a punitive damage claim. So they paint the insured out to be this real threat or danger to the community because they flaunt training or procedures or other types of standard community type things, and it really paints them in a bad light in hopes of getting a jury to assign a large verdict in the favor of the plaintiffs. This is something that we're seeing and we have seen on some of our trial results. You know, we had a trial in Alabama recently in which it was a 22-year-old female that was very healthy, no pre-existing conditions, soft tissue injury. She treated for about 12 weeks with physical therapy. The plaintiff attorney made a $250,000 demand, and the offer that was made was $50,000. The plaintiff attorney rejected the offer, and the case went to court in Alabama. Alabama is traditionally a very conservative venue, and so carriers are not as nervous about taking a case to trial there, especially one such as this. The plaintiff attorney leveraged components of the reptile theory and really painted the insured to be a menace to society. And the jury came back and awarded the plaintiff $300,000 for a simple soft tissue injury, which is unheard of. What this does is makes carriers, not just ours, but all carriers, really hesitant to try cases, which is you know, not good for us because we need to be able to put it out there to the plaintiff bar that we're not afraid to try cases. But if we're getting very unreasonable verdicts back and we have $1 million in limits, it makes us a little more hesitant to try cases, especially if there's anything within the discovery phase that is uncovered on our side of it, on the defense side, that may create a question as to what the jury is going to view. So what you're seeing here is really just kind of the litigation states, right? And so, you know, you guys can probably all guess some of the biggest litigated states: Texas, Florida, California. You know, add to that New York, New Jersey, and Michigan. However, for us, for KBK, we have heavy PIF concentration within the states of California, Texas, and Florida. So conversely, these are where we see the most of our litigated claims. And what I put down here to the bottom right are just some of the plaintiff firms that we see the most cases against KBK. Florida leads the pack, which, you know, I'm originally from California, and so I thought it was going to be California, but in this instance, Florida is leading the pack with the amount of litigated claims within our book. Just above that, you can see some of the counties. Not surprising when you look at those. Those are the most heavily populated counties within those various states, and also have the highest litigation count. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to talk about, you know, when I just talked about the reptile theory, and so what I'm going to do now is really spend a little time talking about some of the examples in which these are things that plaintiff attorneys are latching onto specific to our claims. So we had a claimant decapitation claim, and in this claim, the plaintiff was actually a majority at fault in this loss, and we felt very good about defending this case. As discovery started and depositions were being taken, it was uncovered that the driver had a history of DUIs. A background check had not been done on the driver. The driver also had possession of a controlled substance, was under the influence at the time of the loss, and was not driving with a valid driver's license. So what had started early in the claims process as a claim that we thought we could easily defend because of the initial facts of it, as more was uncovered through discovery, this claim was compromised out, and we ended up paying a hefty amount on it because of these items with regards to the driver background. A few other severe injury cases. So we have one where gross negligence was found on a named insured for failing to conduct an adequate background check that would have found a deep criminal history of the driver. The driver was also high on drugs and in possession of drugs at the time of the accident. So as soon as we uncover these, we're trying to compromise these out because the likelihood of us taking these to trial is very, very slim when there's this type of information uncovered in a claim. We currently have a case that's set for trial, but will more than likely be compromised out due to the fact that the insured driver indicated during the deposition that he drives frequently for the insured without a valid driver's license, which contradicted our named insured's deposition that said that he was not an employee, but a friend that was just helping at the time of the accident. So I share this information because we are seeing more and more where there are situations like these that come up that could really be avoided if there was just a bit more diligence done at the beginning of, looking at a driver's MVR, conducting, deep background checks, just to vet the drivers a little bit more. All right, late reporting. So I think you all have probably received emails from me globally and individually. Late reporting is something that is a big issue, especially with our carrier. So why are late reporting claims? Why is it such an issue? So unlike wine, claims do not get better with age. The longer a claim is open, the more costly a claim becomes. So what happens? That we see a lot, especially I've seen a lot since I've been here, in situations where an insured, probably very mindful of frequency and the impact that it may have on their premiums, is hesitant to submit a claim and may try and just handle the claim themselves. That generally does not work out in the end. Usually it ends up where things get dragged along, the claimant ends up going to an attorney, and that could have been avoided, or the insured, some months later gets a bill for a repair and it's like $7,000, $10,000, and they thought it was going to be $1,500, and now they're not wanting to pay that out of pocket, so they're sending it over to us to actually handle. This really impedes our ability to handle the investigation timely and really to better defend the insured. Why, right? So think of our severe accidents. By us understanding these accidents early, we're able to really preserve evidence, statements, get accident recon, secure black boxes, video. There's a lot of things out there now that are able to help in the defense of an insured. And if we understand the loss early and are put on notice early of it, we're able to go through and really gather the information before people forget how things happen, the details, and then that makes it harder for us. Mitigation. So claimants have a duty to mitigate, as do insureds. But us being able to put a claimant on notice of their duty to mitigate a claim helps to control those costs. So an example of that, a claimant leaving their vehicle in a storage facility and incurring fees. If the claim is reported to us, we automatically inform the claimant of their duty to mitigate and to instruct them that that needs to be moved to a fee-free facility. If they aren't put on notice of that and incur these large storage fees, judges usually side with the claimant because they were not put on notice, nor did we explain to them of what their duty to mitigate actually means. Sitting in rentals, it's amazing to me seeing claimants that will sit in rentals for weeks upon weeks because they just haven't gone to pick up their vehicle. Those just increase the cost of a claim, and we're able to really help to only pay for what we owe when we're involved in a claim from the start. Again, drives claimants to an attorney. So if a claimant feels like the insured is not doing what they said with trying to resolve the claim, take responsibility for the loss, pay for their damages, they start to feel like they're dragging their feet, and they're going to go right to an attorney, and more times out of not, an injury develops out of that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish a rapport immediately with the claimant when a claim comes in to keep them from going to an attorney to help keep those costs more reasonable.
For sure, Wayne. And the other part that you guys don't see, just to put a bow on this, is Wayne attends our biweekly underwriting meetings with all the underwriters to provide those real-time trends for claims, what's happening on an insured level on specific claims, And then on an agency level, if we're seeing trends in a certain area so that we can try to get ahead of those things. We look for underwriting files where they start with one truck and add 12, and we put those on notice. Then if Wayne sees something of, hey, we're seeing repetitive claims here, we're going to do those investigations, and he is the key to that.
Yep. Thank you, Brian. So just a couple of examples of how late reporting really negatively impacted a claim outcome. So in this first one, we had a data loss of January 24th, 22. It was not reported until 7 months later in August of 22. The insured had rear-ended one claimant, pushing the claimant into another claimant. So a simple rear-end accident. What ended up happening is that all of the claimants ended up attorney represented, and the claimant attorney had 7 months to work up this file, right? So, many times plaintiffs have doctors that they work with, and they have a very set way in which they work up claims. 12 weeks of physical therapy or chiropractic. Throw an MRI in there for good measure and drive those medical specials up even further. And all of this is an attempt, as you build up medical specials, the mindset is the general damages or pain and suffering increases as well, which of course the attorneys get a 30 to 40% cut of that total settlement. So it's in their best interest to drive those medical specials up as high as possible. Another one, we had a loss date of 4/25/19. This was a UIM claim. So, and this one I struggle with because this is our own insured driver. UIM claim, it was submitted almost 3 months later after a $300,000 default was entered against the insured. So the insured didn't even let us know that litigation had been filed and they had been served, and then a default was entered. So now the insured has a $300,000 judgment against them, and now they're submitting it to us to take care of. So, it ended up costing almost $188,000 in defense costs. So hiring our attorneys to help defend the insured on this, $188,000 just to get the default set aside. That did not include then trying to investigate the actual nature of the loss and understanding that the underlying limits had not been exhausted. So that insured driver wasn't even entitled to a UIM claim at that time because of that. But we spent $188,000 to get that default set aside to be able to prove that. So these are big examples of why it's important, but they are regular examples. And so, I understand that there is the hesitance of the insured, and if there is a loss and they would like to pay the claim file back, we certainly can work with our TPA on how an insured can do that, but it really is critical that the insureds report claims timely. Loss prevention. So you're going to hear a lot from me over the coming months around loss prevention and other ways that we can better help protect the insured through the claims process and more importantly into litigation. Dash cams. So dash cams have become a really prevalent technology that commercial vehicles are using now. I cannot stress the benefit of these enough. We are not, and I am not advocating that, insureds need to have cameras on the drivers inside the vehicle. That feels a little big brothery to me. But certainly if we could have a dash cam that is facing front and even a dash cam facing the back, critical in our ability to really defend an insured. In this claim example, I'm going to show you right here a video. We had an accident occur where the claimant was indicating that our driver cut off the claimant, causing them to lose control and strike a negligence-free claimant head-on and killing the two. You can see in this video, it goes from 2-lane down to 1 lane, and you still see cars trying to pass our insured that had a vehicle on hook. So that one just passed, and now you see the claimant who actually clipped us. And then what ended up happening is that white vehicle, the claimant, went across the median and struck another vehicle head on and killed the 2 occupants. That claimant indicated we cut them off. And this is important because you got 2 fatalities of negligent-free individuals. And so in a case such as this, without this video, we would have more than likely tendered the $1 million limits as a result to protect the insured, given we got 2 fatalities and a word versus word, right? This video footage, we were able to file a motion for summary judgment that we did not create this accident, nor was our insured the responsible party, and we actually were able to get out of this claim paying 0. So I cannot stress the importance of dash cams in our ability to actually combat the word versus word and really be able to save our insureds and their limits on cases such as these, especially the severe losses. One thing I did want to share with you all, in case you weren't aware, if we could just hop back one real quick. For severe losses, our TPA does have a service that they provide. It's called Cura, and it's a contracted attorney service. So if an insured is involved in a severe loss, a fatality, they will send an attorney out to the scene within an hour or 2 to preserve evidence. This is critical. When I was going back to the importance of reporting claims timely, this is a service that can really help protect the insured, help prevent evidence spoilage, obtain black boxes, be there while the police department are doing their investigation, measuring off things, and really get that information firsthand. So if you're ever put on notice that an insured has had a large loss such as that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I can have an attorney dispatched to the loss scene, usually within a matter of 2 hours. Thank you, Ryan. So accident kit and photo app. So about 4 months ago, I had worked with our TPA, which is North American Risk Services, or NARS, to start including our book in the utilization of their NARS appraisal service app. So this is real beneficial for claimants because it is using CCC, which is domestically an industry standard for appraisal application, self-service appraisals. And so we can use this on claimant vehicles, and we actually push claimants to this versus sending out an appraiser. Again, that's because we use IAs, there's expenses involved, plus the time it takes to get people out there. But we can also use photos to be able to do the heavy equipment vehicles, and that will get the check in the hand of the insured within 48 hours. So big win for the insured. They can get in, start the repair process sooner. All right, and then last but not least, so I'll be working with our marketing team, and we will be launching Wayne's Claims World and going through and providing information around topics such as things that we've covered here in a little more depth. But also, I would love to hear from any of you if you have claims topics that you would like to hear more about. Our first topic that's going to be coming out at the end of March is going to be around training, procedural manuals, and best practices. This goes to really some of the things I was talking about early on in those litigated files around how can we do some minimal things with insureds, but really be able to protect them in litigation as a result of some of these things. So very excited to start this Wayne's Claims World with you all. Look for that at the end of March. Brian?
Man, that was great, Wayne. We appreciate that. As a reminder, Wayne's here as a resource for you guys, and for those of you who have taken advantage of his help, have seen, the work that he can do with NARS, with our partner Guard, with moving things. And most of what he talked about is key communication. He can help facilitate that with all parties. So we're very thankful for Wayne. So let's get to some questions. We've got some time to do that. The first one is from Steve, and it looks, how do you compete against Progressive? Okay, so good question, Steve. Progressive is the 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace, right? And if they want it, Steve, they're going to go get it. And I hate to tell you that, but there's a reason that they are bailing on some locales, including California, because they didn't get the increases they need to be profitable there, and we're seeing them get off business. The other thing I could say, they're a fine company, but when you make a change to one of their policies, adding a truck insured or have a claim, those rates will go up midterm. And so we see a lot of business circle back when Progressive does that, and we're just really waiting for the next step to happen, and the next shoe to drop, if you will, similar to farmers getting out in a number of states, access bailing. If you can't get the rate you need up front and stay there, it's not a long-term solution, right? Let's see, what's next? From Bill, why can't my insurer just pay the claim on their own? Wayne?
So they can, but I would suggest that they report it first, let the investigation happen. And as I mentioned, we have discussed this with NARS and GUARD, and the insured can pay back the claim file and it would be a zeroed out claim file. I think that, I can't stress this enough, a claim usually gets away from an insured. And then ultimately it ends up becoming a much bigger claim than it should have been had they reported to us earlier. So if they report it to us timely and we move the claim through efficiently and effectively like we do, it's probably going to cost the insured less than it would if they just tried to do it on their own and get to it when they can. So long answer to a short question is they can, but I would highly suggest that they are reporting the claim first.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Totally agree. Let's go to Chris. How do I get appointed? So that happens through, you can send an email to me or our marketing team that it'll make its way to me, and we'll vet the appointment. We're looking for specialists. There are certain locales where we're not adding agencies. California is one of them. I bet there's a number of people I've talked to on this based on the attendee list that we are not adding at this time. And that's just due to the dynamics of the marketplace, right? We're limited in Florida. We're dipping our toe into upstate New York with the aim to hopefully open it up a little more at the end of the year. But we agree with GUARD that this is the time to write good business, do it cautiously, and write the right business, right? A number of you in California have seen us get off business that has not been profitable, or we could not make profitable with those rates. So you can come to me for appointments. Just wanted to get it out there on California. It's a tough place right now, so we're not adding them. That could change next year, but things would have to change in the marketplace. All right. Next from Andy, do you write a new venture if the client has experience in the same field? We don't, Andy. That's a good question. We need at least 2 full years of loss runs in that space to write it, to quote it, to consider it, right? And I'm not discounting people's experience because we know that that's very important and we want experienced drivers and operators, but we need that loss experience to properly understand what we're getting on, and then how to underwrite it. All right. A related question, how many years loss runs are needed? We can do 2. We want 3 to 5, as many as you have, right? Because we're looking for that loss experience and that development. Here's a good one. From Nick, can clients have the opportunity to pay physical damage only, maybe on hook claims, out of pocket after the claim is submitted? So let's talk about on hook claims for a second, Wayne, and how the deductibles play in with those and how we see that play out.
So on hook deductibles are, so the TPA NARS pays from $1. All right, so it's not like a collision deductible where the settlement or the amount of damages for an insured vehicle, the deductible is automatically applied and then the total is reduced accordingly. We can't do that on claimants. So an insured has an on-hook deductible. If a loss occurs and they have a $1,000 deductible, the claimant is not, their dollar amount is not reduced by that. So it's paid from $1 and then the insured receives a bill for that deductible. If the insured wants to pay that back, the deductible as well as the dollar amount that was paid for the damages, again, we can do that. So, please, if you have any questions on that or how that works, don't hesitate to reach out to me, because we have set up with both AmGuard and NARS our ability to have insureds pay back the claim file should they want to.
Thank you for that, Wayne. A question here from Josh on if we write international. I assume you're talking about Mexico and Canada. We do not today, Josh, but that's a good question. It's got to be here in the States. Another question that had actually multiple parts, but the gist of it for everyone on the call is, there are agents who will have a risk, say they own and operate in Los Angeles, but they put their garage location on the app towards the Oregon border. How do we handle that? We take those things very seriously. Those things normally end up getting figured out because of claims. And we're going to be asking those questions. We also do Google searches and things of that nature. But we look for those types of things. We've seen things like that in California. The most recent rash of things that we've encountered similarly are people changing progressive loss runs, right? You can always tell when that X moves and it's off to the side, because Progressive has that precision in their loss runs. Everyone on here who's seen them knows exactly what I'm talking about. And so we look for those things. And that goes back to the underwriting expertise and tenure of our underwriters. 14 years of seeing them. People know when something's wrong and when something is off. And so we track those things. We have those conversations, and there's a no tolerance policy there for sure. All right. Are you admitted in New York for all lines, and do you write all lines and monoline towing in New York? As I mentioned earlier, we're dipping our toe in upstate right now. We're doing that on a limited basis on a plan agreed with our good friends at Guard, because we don't want to be one of the many tombstones that New York State has chewed up and spit out. And so we're going to do upstate slowly and deliberately. We're going to get some good data for us to crunch with them. It is the admitted product, and it is all line. Lines, when we open up, it won't be able to be monoline. It will need to be the entire package. But that is a good question. Wayne, how is the supply chain? It's from Bonnie. How is the supply chain hurting claims? You could dig a little deeper on that for us.
So really parts availability. So think of recycled or LKQ, like kind quality. The supply chain, because people were not driving, right, through the pandemic, we had less total losses, so there were less salvage vehicles available, which a lot of recycled and LKQ parts are utilized from totaled vehicles. So when you have almost 2.5 years of very limited driving, we had a lot less total loss vehicles. Then you had companies like LKQ or Keystone that actually create aftermarket parts like fenders, side mirrors, stuff like that. They also were having a hard time getting the materials to make the things like fenders and side mirrors. And so that just perpetuated it. So we still continue to see that, especially on the ability to find LKQ and recycled parts, which is huge for the insurance industry, because we rely on that, because not every vehicle is entitled, nor do they necessarily fit OEM parts, right? So if you're driving a 2010, you're not entitled to 2023 parts. And more importantly, they probably don't fit because body styles change.
For sure. Thanks for that, Wayne. So a couple more questions before we wrap up. What about RV service and repair? That's not a fit today, Bonnie. We view that, and Guard agrees that it's a different risk from the used heavy truck deal that we've talked to them about it. The RVs are tough because of the propensities for fires and the theft of the TVs and appliances in them, which is an added complexity separate from the heavy trucks. Do you run MVRs from Philip? Philip, we do not. That is on the agent. We do that as a cost of doing business, and if something is required before we can bind. All right. And then last but not least, Chad, how do we get access to the other programs? I appreciate that, because that's what I was going to roll with. You can come to us. We'd love to make that introduction, right? NSM is so much deeper and wider than KBK, and we're thankful for that. And we love to hand over warm leads, whether it's workers' comp for tow, to further deepen a relationship with an insured, or it's social services, habitational property, professional lines, PUA. we love to make that happen. All right. So that is all the questions. Those were good questions. We appreciate those. To wrap up, why you should choose KBK, and it's a lot of the things we talked about today. We've got a great partner in Guard who loves the business and wants to write more of it and grow the right way with us so that we can be that niche solution for you guys. It's broad coverage of the package and being that solution so you don't have to break it up piecemeal or a la carte, right? And then of course there's solutions like Wayne in terms of risk management that can be that go-to for you. We don't want you or the insured waiting. Wayne is there to be that gap for the in-house claim services and resources. And we've got the track record to do it, right? As we said, we've been in business 32 years, which is interesting, same as our parent company, NSM. And so there's that track record there of being without a gap in coverage and providing solutions. And we want to be able to be that for you guys on a long-term basis. And that's why our rates are as they are sometimes, so that we can continue to be that solution. So send us the submission, send us an email to get appointed. We want to be a solution for you guys in the marketplace. But we thank you all so much for joining today. On this last slide is mine and Aaron's information. If you guys don't have it, send us an email. As I said, there's one or two questions I didn't get to that can be handled offline that I promise. And this is going to be available. We appreciate the attendance and the participation, and you will see this PowerPoint in a few days. Thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate the business.
Thank you, everybody.